Right, so new video. This one's not going to be super technical. We're going to go over the things you need to consider and think about before signing a client. And this is super crucial. Let me just full screen this. This is super crucial because if you don't follow these upcoming steps, you're going to have a nightmare. And if you don't think about these things and you prepare for them and you enter into agreements taking these things into consideration, things are going to be a mess. And you're going to realize what I mean if you go outside of what I'm going to tell you. So these are the things you need to think of and actually take into consideration before you sign a client. And the first thing is the deliverables, okay? So deliverables are basically what the client gets specifically. Maybe it's a website and a chatbot on top of that, 1 month of support, whatever it may be, you need to list out in bullet points in the agreement exactly what they're getting, because clients have a habit of asking for more than was agreed upon, okay? So you have X amount of deliverables and they'll ask you, hey, can you do this thing too? Can you build this thing or refine this thing or upgrade this automation? And you can tell them, no, that's not what we agreed upon. You don't have to say it like that, but you can say it in a way where it's like, okay, what you're asking for right now is outside of the deliverables, but we can sort it out for X amount, right? We can add that on top of the existing agreement and get it done. So that's not a problem. So you don't want to reject them, but you want to make it clear that if you're going to do anything outside of the deliverables, you're going to get paid for that. Because if you let one thing slide, if you tell them, okay, sure, we can do this for free, no problem at all, I'll just do this thing, they're going to take advantage of that. They're going to start asking you for more and more and more. And this is a huge problem. They're going to take advantage of you because now they realize they can just get things out of you without having to pay you. So you have an agreement with them. You have, say, 3 or 4 deliverables, but they're asking for more. And you're doing that without saying anything, without charging for it. They're going to take advantage of it, okay? These clients are super cutthroat and you have to set the right frame. The deliverables is everything they're getting. If they want anything outside of that, they pay for it. Simple as that, okay? Don't make a habit of going outside of this because you're going to be taken advantage of and you're going to hate your life and you're going to realize that you're doing more work than what you're getting paid for. So set the right tone for the beginning and don't let shit like this slide because you're going to be taken advantage of, all right? Now, the second thing is scopes. Scopes is basically what is going to be achieved with the agreement. Like the overall mission, overall outcome, destination, whatever you want to call it. What are you actually going to achieve for the client? Make it very clear. So this kind of goes in line with the deliverables, but the deliverables are more specific about what's going to be delivered practically, whereas scopes is more focused on the outcome. What are they actually going to get? What is the ideal outcome and the promised outcome from all this? And this needs to be clear as well because they need to understand the value of what they're getting. Okay, if you only focus on the deliverables and you don't take any consideration of what the scopes are going to be, they're not going to understand the value of what they're getting. And they might not be super keen on signing an agreement with you. So what is actually going to be achieved? What is the value? What's in it for them? What is the outcome? Not just practically what they're getting. So make sure you have this in line as well. And of course, you just use AI to filter out, determine and pinpoint everything that you need for the client, like the deliverables and the scopes and everything. And then we have pricing. Okay, for me, this is what I recommend. And a lot of people may disagree with this, but this is what I recommend. And this is how I do things. I usually do things on a 2-call close. So the first call is strictly just gaining clarity over their situation to see if you can help, then how you can help exactly. Recording the call, getting exactly everything you need from them to be able to formulate a proper offer that is fully customized and tailored to them. So that call, you're not going to pitch them. You're not going to give them a price. You're not going to give them an agreement. You do the first call to gain as much clarity as possible. Maybe you spend like 20-30 minutes on this call. Then you book a second call with them. And in between the first and second call, you take the call recording and the transcript, you feed that into Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and you have it create the exact, pricing structure, of course, the entire agreement, deliverables and all that. And the pricing needs to be very specific and in line with the scope of the project and the deliverables, okay? So you can't just throw out a price in the first call, in my opinion, because it might not be accurate to what you are supposed to price. Maybe you got to pay your team and they cost X amount to hire. So that's going to be needed to take into consideration for your margins and everything. And you got to take into consideration the tools you're using. Cloud Code, maybe Codex, whatever you're using, that's going to cost you money out of your own pocket. So you need to look at all these things when you give someone a price. What's it going to cost you to hire a team, to use all these tools? What's the scope of the project? What is this project valued at before you actually give a price? So start with a clarity call, a discovery call. Book a new call while you have them on the first call. Then in between, you send everything over, the agreement, the pricing, everything, so they can look through it. And then on the second call, you go through any final questions, and then you close the deal there with the actual price that you have in the agreement. And when these prospects try to then negotiate on the price and ask if you can lower it or if they can get a discount, you simply say no. You say, no, we can't do that because I've looked into what I need to pay my team, what this is going to cost me to deliver, and the value of the actual project according to the deliverables and the entire scope. Okay, so this is the price that we have. If you want a discount, we can strip off some of the deliverables. We can reduce the scope of the project and just deliver less basically. And then of course we can look into a different price, but don't just lower your price because you feel like you want to close this client. If you're going to lower your price, lower the deliverables and the scopes as well. And yeah, that's the only acceptable way you can actually reduce the price. Other than that, if they want the full scopes and deliverables, you stay on that price, okay? That's why you can't just throw a price out there on the first call, because then they're not going to take that price seriously. They're just going to be like, well, he just pulled that price out of his ass. Like, that doesn't mean anything. How is this an accurate price? Why did he price it like that, or she? What kind of conclusion did he come up with on this call that got him or her to price it that way? So pricing is very important. Please don't budge on this. You're going to be taken advantage of if you do that. You know, you need to make sure the pricing is actually based on something real, something tangible, and not just something you pulled out of your ass. And if you do reduce the price, make sure you reduce the deliverables and you minimize the scope. All right? Very important. Now we have deadlines. You need to put deadlines on a project. Say you have a 30-day money-back guarantee. You tell the prospect, hey, we're going to deliver this in 30 days. Okay, 30 days, we're going to deliver this. And we're going to start with an installment fee, say 3, 4K, or however much, depending on the scopes and deliverables. So you start with an installment fee, and then in exactly 30 days, you're going to do a retainer on top of that, okay? Maybe that's going to be like $700, $800, depending on the scopes and how big the project is and so on and so forth. But you need to have deadlines. If you say, well, we're not going to start the retainer until the project is actually installed and delivered, what's going to happen is these prospects are going to take advantage of that, and they're going to take their time. They're going to drag out the actual project, and you're going to be working on it for months until you can sign them on a retainer. No, sign them on a retainer immediately. You get paid upfront, very important, and then you sign them on a retainer exactly 30 days after they pay the first fee, because that's going to put some fire under their ass. They're going to have some urgency. They're going to make sure they deliver what they need to deliver to you, so you can fulfill the actual project. And if they don't, they're going to keep paying you every single month until they do what they got to do. You have to put some expectations on the prospect, on the client in this case, okay? They have to do XYZ, like, give you login details or API keys or company documentation or whatever it is that you need to build the automations and build the systems. So make sure you set the deadlines in place so they do this on time, and you don't tell them like, oh, we're going to sign the retainer once we've delivered on the project. No, don't do that, okay? Put some pressure on them, because otherwise they're going to take their time because they're busy, they have other projects. And if you're only getting paid for the installment fee and you haven't signed a retainer agreement with them, they're going to drag the shit out of this. You're probably going to spend months on one single project that you got paid for 3 or 4 months ago. Trust me, I've been in this boat. It's an absolute nightmare. You don't want this to happen to you. It's happened to me like twice before with clients, and it's a complete nightmare, okay? They're going to take advantage of it. They're going to take their time. You're going to spend months on the same project that you got paid like 2-3K for. It's not worth it. Don't do this. It's a huge mistake. Make sure you have deadlines for the client. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. And then I think this is the final one. Yep. Guarantee stipulation. Okay. So when you have a guarantee, say you have a 30-day guarantee, a 30-day money back guarantee, if the systems are not in place and functional within 30 days, they get their money back. Okay. And this is a no-brainer for them. They're going to get their money back if you don't fulfill your end of the deal within these 30 days, which means installing the actual systems. However, very important, for you to be able to give this guarantee, there needs to be stipulations. What does this mean? Basically demands from the client side of what they need to do to actually get the guarantee. This means maybe something like responding to your requests and giving you what you need within 24 hours for each and every single request. So if you reach out to them and tell them, hey, I need XYZ from you, I need company documentation around this area, I need your API keys for this, I need your login details for this platform, blah, 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 blah. And they need to get this done within a certain time frame, say 24 to 48 hours. If they don't do this, if they fail at doing this just once, the guarantee goes out of the window, because now they're not doing what they're supposed to do within the time frame they're supposed to do it. They're dragging out the project. It's taking longer for you to get the job done because they're not giving you what you need. How are you going to build a project or an automation without their API keys or without their login details, without their company documentation to build knowledge databases, vector databases, whatever it may be? You need this information. You need it to be able to fulfill on the actual automation. And if they don't fulfill on these stipulations within that certain time frame, then you just say, you know what, there's no guarantee anymore because you're dragging things out. Make this clear from the very, very beginning, okay? This is what you got to give me within X amount of hours. If you don't, the guarantee is out of the window. That puts more respect and more trustworthiness onto your guarantee. They trust it more. It's not just a random guarantee where they're going to get their money back regardless of what happens within 30 days if you don't fulfill your end of the deal. Because then they're going to think that they don't have to do anything. They can just respond to you a week later and that's fine. And if they don't do what they got to do, they're going to get their money back regardless. So they're not going to work with you. They're not going to collaborate with you. They're not going to give you what you need in time. They're not going to be collaborative. It's just going to be annoying as hell. And then at the end of it, they're going to have the right to a guarantee because you didn't set those stipulations. So this is very, very important. So that's pretty much it. Look into all these things. Again, deliverables, to recap everything. You need to make sure the deliverables are clear, never go outside of them. You're going to be taken advantage of. What are you actually achieving with this project when it comes to the scopes? Like what is the scopes of this project? What is the mission? What is the outcome? You need to make that clear so they're more incentivized to want to work with you. What is the pricing? The pricing has to be based on something, okay? You can't just throw out a price on the first call without having looked into the actual agreement, what you're going to pay for the tools you use, what you're going to pay your team, and so on and so forth. Deadlines. What are the deadlines, okay? Because you need deadlines. If you don't have deadlines, again, you're going to be taken advantage of. You have your installment fee, okay? The first thing you do upfront, and then in 30 days you have the first payment, the first retainer payment. That gives the client a deadline. They know that they're gonna want to get this installed within 30 days. Otherwise, they're just gonna keep paying because they're dragging out the project. So you need to make this clear on them. Also, I'm gonna share a little bonus tip at the end of this, but I want to go through the final one. And the final one that I just went through was the guarantee stipulation. Okay, so they need to do things from their end to be able to get the guarantee. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. They will take advantage of this. They will find a way out of the guarantee. They will not respond to you, and then in 30 days they're going to be like, oh well, sorry, you didn't deliver the project, so now we want our money back. Make sure you have stipulations for this. Otherwise, the money back guarantee doesn't make any sense because you're putting your ass on the line and you're risking a lot by having a money back guarantee. If they're not giving you what you need within time to deliver on the automation and the system, then it doesn't make sense to do a money back guarantee. Okay. And then the final thing, I want you guys to understand something. Never ever sign a client, and maybe this is controversial, maybe this is something a lot of you will disagree with, but I don't agree with signing a client on like a rev share model where you haven't gotten anything upfront. You always need to get paid upfront before you do any client work. Why? Because if the client isn't financially invested in the project, by having invested a certain amount into working with you, they won't be emotionally invested as well. They won't care about the project, and the slightest inconvenience, they'll give up on it. They'll throw it aside, they'll stop responding to you, they'll ghost you, and you'll have spent weeks trying to deliver a project that just died because they stopped responding, okay? I did this mistake with a client in the past, an e-commerce client. I signed them on a rev share model and I didn't charge anything up front. And then they had their Amazon account temporarily restricted because Amazon will not allow two different IP addresses to be logged into the same account because they will see it as someone is scamming them or someone has gotten access to their account. So they will restrict it out of security measures. And instead of us working through it and them looking into like, okay, let's just provide Amazon with the necessary documentation to get this account unrestricted, that was probably going to take like 24 hours max. They decided to terminate the entire contract, and I had spent 3 weeks working with them, which was a complete waste because I didn't get paid, and 3 weeks out of my time was completely wasted. So don't do that yourselves. If you're going to work with someone on a rev share model, make sure you get paid upfront. You have to get paid upfront. They need to be financially invested because that's the only way they'll commit to this. Okay? That's the only way they'll commit. And that will emotionally invest them into the project as well. And they're going to say something like, oh, well, if you're confident in your ability, you should just charge based on what you deliver for us. No. You can be confident in your ability to deliver and still, charge up front, because that argument doesn't make any sense. You're putting your ass on the line and they can terminate the contract whenever they want if you haven't gotten paid up front. And now you're going to be taking the hit, basically. You're going to be doing all the work, preparing everything, and then they'll just say, fuck off. We don't want to work with you anymore. That's a bad move, all right? You can still be confident in your ability to deliver while charging up front, because they need to be invested in the project. If they're not, they're just going to give up. So very important to think about these things, guys. It's going to save you a lot of headache. If you ignore these things and you land your first client and you do everything to land them, including ignoring these important steps, you're going to regret you ignore them, because it's going to bite you in the ass and it's going to be a real pain. So don't ignore these things. Really take them into consideration before you sign a client. 2-call close is going to give you some time to breathe between the calls, and you send everything before the second call, and then you jump on the call with them and you close the deal on the spot there. That's it. That's how you do it. And I hope this was helpful. Take this into consideration before you sign a deal with a client, and you'll be glad you did. Trust me. So I hope this was helpful. And as always, I'll see you next time. Cheers.